just turned in their report that last year they sold crop insurance policies totaling 23,634. This year they've sold 23,922. That would indicate a slight increase in the acres of peanuts to be planted this season. I'm Tyron Spearman for Southeast AgNet.
Attention passengers for Flight 1370. The plane has been delayed at its departure point and will be at least 2 hours late. We apologize for any inconvenience.
Are you serious? It took us over an hour to get here, 2 hours going through security and getting our tickets, and now we have to wait another 2 hours.
Yeah, it's beautiful here, but we're inside this overcrowded airport all day because the plane is stuck in bad weather.
This is the last time we ever do this. When we get back, we're going to Ocala Aviation and getting our pilot's license.
Yeah, we've been talking about that long enough. It's about time we did it. Then we could just fly ourselves and never have to deal with this mess again.
Right. No long lines, no full body groping security, no baggage checks.
Not to mention never losing your luggage. Remind me again why we haven't done that?
Well, we're idiots.
Oh, right.
Attention all passengers for Flight 1370. It looks like the plane is going to be delayed a little bit longer. The airline has lost the pilot's luggage. Isn't it time you got your pilot's license? Call Ocala Aviation today. 352-861-7484. That's 352-861-7484. Hey, you've earned it. Call today.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA. Ocala!
All right, 5 minutes after 11 o'clock. Remember that show that Art Linkletter used to do called Kids Can Be Funny? Or Kids Say the Darndest Things?
Yeah, I liked his show.
Well, I think we should create a show. Men Can Be Dopey. Let me tell you a story. The other day I went to my doctor, right? I have a lady doctor, right? Mm-hmm. And she has a lady nurse, and both ladies are like my age, over 60, right? Mm-hmm. And so they were talking among themselves about a doctor, I guess, who's, hot stuff in town, and he's a good-looking guy, and whatever. So I was I was privy to their little conversation. Uh-huh. And she said to him, the doctor said to the nurse, so I said to him, listen, your charm isn't going to work on me. I'm postmenopausal. You need to take care of that. I'm thinking, man,
good for her.
Man, she laid it on him.
Yeah, good
and I was
for
thinking,
her.
gosh, us guys are so stupid, aren't we? We always try to hit on women. I don't know if I'm ever going to learn, Robin. Just kick me if I ever start doing that, okay? Dr. Stephanie S. Faubion is on the phone. She's one of the nation's leading experts on menopause. She's the director of the Women's Health Clinic in the Department of Medicine and the director of the Office of Women's Health at the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota. She regularly treats women with menopausal concerns, and she's written a book. And if we've piqued your attention, then you're going to be happy to hear what the book says. It's called The Menopause Solution, A Doctor's Guide to Relieving Hot Flashes, Enjoying Better Sex, which gets my male mind attention, sleeping well, controlling your weight, and being happy. Dr. Stephanie Faubion. Good morning, doctor.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Where are you?
I am in Rochester, Minnesota.
Oh, right, of course.
Nice.
I had it right in my notes, too. How's the weather there? You had bad weather yesterday, didn't you?
Actually, we had pretty nice weather
you
yesterday.
Did? Okay.
Yeah, it was around 70 and sunny.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Well, that was kind of what it was here. Yeah, I'm thinking something bad's going to happen soon. We've had good weather the last couple of weeks, right? Yeah, it's been really nice. So tell me about the menopause solution. Is it information that women can do themselves, or do they need a doctor's help?
Well, I think we wrote the book, actually, because we didn't have a really good source of information to give our patients when we see them in the clinic. So that was the main impetus. And if you think about it, we often get a class in 5th grade that talks about starting periods. We might get a book or a class when we get pregnant. But nobody gives you a class or any information when you're going through the menopausal transition. So it was really that gap in information that drove us to get this book together a couple of years ago, and I'm so happy that it's finally coming out.
So if you went back in time 100 years ago, how were the ladies back then treating the hot flashes? Was it, I'm sure it was looked upon differently from a society point of view, but how were they handling it themselves?
Well, you know what? On average, we didn't live past menopause 100 years ago.
Oh,
So
okay.
this is actually a new phenomenon that women are now spending up to 40%, sometimes even 50% of our lives post-menopause, but this is a relatively new phenomenon that the majority of us are doing this. So you're right, back if a woman did make it past menopause, so make it past age 51 or so,
Right.
100 years ago, she just suffered through this. I mean, it was just, something that you had to do and you moved on, right? But there was plenty of misery associated with it, no doubt, back then as well, if women did make it that long.
So how do women take care of that misery today?
Well, and you mentioned, or you asked about the book, is this something that women can read on their own, or do they need their doctors? So there are certainly things that women can do to help this transition along, and even just having knowledge about it and understanding what's happening to our bodies can be really helpful. So part of this is explaining exactly what's happening. Part of it is explaining what are the things that you can do at home about these various symptoms, like hot flashes and night sweats. And then sometimes when they're more severe than we can handle on our own, our physicians or medical providers can help fill in the blanks on what prescription therapies might be indicated. So it's kind of the full gamut of what women might do.
This is going to sound like I'm a man, but let me ask about the sex part of this just for a second here. I've often thought this, and I hope this doesn't sound inappropriate or even dopey, but it probably will. I've often thought that when we get older and we have sexual changes, that we keep wanting to be younger. Men want to take pills so they can, be better, and women want to continue being better, but yet our baby-making years are done. Maybe God wanted us to kind of cool it off a little bit. Maybe he didn't want us to keep doing. Maybe, like before you were sexual. Dr. Ruth had an expression being sexualized. So when you're sexually awakened, right? Before that ever happened, boys and girls played together. They weren't, nobody thought about sex back then. Maybe that's the way we're supposed to be in the older years. But how do you forget about it? You can't.
Yeah, you can't.
Well, here's the reality, though. We are basically sexual beings as humans, and humans remain sexual until they die. I mean, the research tells us that. So it doesn't matter if you are in a nursing home or in even a hospice situation, human beings remain sexual. Now, intimacy may change in terms of what it looks like as we age. So if you think about it, sex is going to look different at 20 than it does at 40, and it's going to look different at 60 than it did at 40, and it's going to look different at 80 than it did at 60. So we all have our things as we get older in terms of medical conditions, and sex may need to change as we age to adapt for those changes that we have in our health. But bottom line, intimacy is important to us. And so it doesn't mean that sex at 80 is going to look the same. So, sex may take on, it may not be penetrative sex anymore. It may just be more forms of intimacy. And it doesn't mean that we have to aim for being 20 when we're postmenopausal, because clearly we're not in many ways.
Mm-hmm. Well, is this a book that men would benefit from? Like, would men understand the women they love better just by understanding menopause better?
Absolutely. I think that's true in general. I mean, we all need to understand what the other is going through, right? And so just understanding this transition, even women don't understand what's going on, so they may have a hard time explaining it to their partners if they're really confused about what's going on themselves. And we see this actually all the time. Women are coming in around that menopausal transition in their late 40s and early 50s, and they may have symptoms that they don't necessarily attribute to menopause, such as not sleeping well or maybe even having some joint aches. Those can actually be menopausal symptoms. So even women may not quite get it. So how can they explain it to their partners if they don't understand? But certainly men would benefit from understanding more.
And you're talking about the waning of communication because, all of a sudden you're together and you're having fun with sex and all this, and then your bodies are changing and you don't want to say anything because you don't want to feel inadequate, and then all of a sudden they start growing apart and find other partners.
Well, you're exactly right. Communication is absolutely key. And as things change as we get older, we need to absolutely remember that communicating is the first defense that we have against all these things that are happening to us. And I don't mean to imply that we can't have healthy sex lives as we age. We can and we do. So it's important to be able to maintain that intimacy.
Do you know what I think is a good thing that has changed is the fact that we have lady doctors now. I think, and I'm not the first to say this, I think when men were the primary doctors, I think we were shortchanging women, and simply because men didn't have a clue. And why would they? But I think having lady doctors, especially lady doctors who've been around a while, and maybe have gone through everything, like the doctor I have, the lady doctor I have, she came right out and said she's postmenopausal.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
She probably does wonders for her lady patients.
Well, it certainly does help when we understand, women come in complaining about weight gain around the midsection. We go, yeah, totally get it. I understand that part.
Oh, really? How much of it is nutritional and hormonal, and do those things, like with men, they always say, oh, you need to get a testosterone, whatever, supplement or whatever. I don't even know how they do that, but does that same thing apply to women, the estrogen, and does diet in general make a difference?
Well, if you're talking about the weight gain that some women can experience around menopause, there are a few different reasons why we tend to gain weight at menopause. One, our metabolic rate slows a little bit when we go into menopause, so we're not burning as many calories. Two, we tend to move a little less, so we're not burning as many calories. Three, every last bit of weight that you have, every last bit of fat tends to collect around the midsection. And then the last thing that's more of an aging thing is we tend to lose a little bit of muscle mass every year after the age of 50. So again, that would be burning calories. So all of these things are lining up around the menopausal transition to make us put on a little weight. Now, the estrogen question about does that reverse everything is a very complicated one. It can somewhat help with the bad redistribution of fat around the middle, but it's not going to help you lose weight. So it is certainly not a weight loss pill, and we don't put women on hormone therapy for the purposes of weight loss.
I love that.
The book is called The Menopause Solution, A Doctor's Guide to Relieving Hot Flashes, Enjoying Better Sex, Sleeping Well, Controlling Your Weight, and Being Happy. Dr. Stephanie S. Faubion is on the phone in, I know I asked you where you were. Minneapolis? Is that where you were?
Rochester.
Minnesota. We'll take a little break and be right back. If you have any questions, by the way, you are invited to call in. The number is 622-9622. We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Nice Monday with lots of sunshine and a high of 83 at the coast, 89 inland. Clear to partly cloudy Monday night with a low of 62 and a few cool inland spots to 69 along the coast. For Tuesday and Wednesday, a mix of clouds and sunshine. The high Tuesday, 81 at the coast, 86 inland. Wednesday's high, 83 at the coast, up to 89 inland. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Need a mailbox rental but need more information? Remember, Personal Service Center, 789-6683. How does $10 a month sound with just a 3-month commitment? Remember, Personal Service Center, 789-6683. Mention WOCA and the setup fee is waived. Personal Service Center will email or text notifications to you when your packages arrive. Even scan mail so you never actually have to pick it up. Now that's service. Personal Service Center, 789-6683. Located on the corner of Northeast 25th Avenue and 24th Street, Ocala. Look for the yellow signs.
Here she is, folks.
The nuns at Queen of Angels will never be the same after Dolores moves in. Sister Act Once a Movie, now live on stage at Ocala Civic Theater May 19th through June 12th. After witnessing a murder, Dolores hides out as Sister Mary Clarence and turns the little church upside down. Call 352-236-2274 or buy online at OcalaCivicTheater.com. It would be a sin to miss it.
All right, 17 minutes after 11 o'clock. Beautiful Monday morning. Hope you had a good Mother's Day weekend. Dr. Stephanie S. Faubion is on the phone with us. She has written the book called The Menopause Solution, A Doctor's Guide to Relieving Hot Flashes, Enjoying Better Sex, Sleeping Well, Controlling Your Weight, and Being Happy. And again, I invite you to call in if you have a question for Dr. Faubion. The area code 352, the number 622-9622. Doctor, am I saying your last name correctly?
You are. It's Faubion.
Okay, excellent. The one thing I want to ask you about in the subtitle of the book is Sleeping Well. Are sleep issues a part of something that goes along with menopause, and is it something that is temporary?
Absolutely. Good question. So one of the first signs of a woman going into the menopausal transition can just be insomnia. I can't get to sleep. So even before having hot flashes and those night sweats that can keep you up, people just have trouble getting to sleep. So then as we get into the menopausal transition, again, night sweats can be a major problem. Women can be up and even having to change their bedclothes a couple of times per night because they're soaking wet, which can be terribly bothersome. And then when you don't sleep well, you wake up feeling fatigued and you can't function during the day. But also, as women go through menopause, they're more at risk for some of the more serious sleep disorders that can occur. For instance, sleep apnea is one of those, and it's not that it's any more common because of menopause, but after the menopausal transition, we seem to have it as frequently as men do. So that's when you stop breathing in the middle of the night, and it can cause some serious issues, including increasing your heart risks. So women need to be aware that if they're waking up feeling very fatigued or they're snoring a lot at night and their partner reports that, then this may need to be something that they should be screened for. Women can also get restless leg syndrome, where you get that jumpy feeling in your legs and really have trouble going to sleep or staying asleep because of that.
Right. Just advice for the men: never tell your wife she's snoring. Just let her not know. Maybe she'll have a sleepover with one of her friends and they can tell her.
There you go. A sense of purpose is really important to a woman, too. I know it is important to a man also, but once the children are grown and they're out of the house, they have their own families, the woman has to readjust her life because chances are she's not the primary breadwinner of the family. The husband is, so he's still got his job to go to every day and do what he does. But now she's got to reevaluate what she needs to do.
That's exactly right. So she may be the breadwinner of the family, but women are often, even if they're working outside the home, they're still dealing with grown children or children's issues, and they're still dealing with aging parents. So there are a lot of sandwich generation issues that come along during this time. But this is also a time where women can sort of reassess what they want and what they need, and are they fulfilling the goals that they wanted to fulfill? Because this is, in essence, the second part of life, and we can sort of reevaluate our needs and figure out if we want to take a different path. So it's a nice time to reflect on where we're going and what we would like to do.
There's a trending story this morning. I don't know if you've seen it, and it's a photograph of a woman who's an old woman, not just older, but she's an old lady. And she goes through this makeup makeover, whatever they call it, and my gosh, she looks like a movie star at the end. It's almost impossible to believe she's the same lady.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen these two photographs side by side, but there's a trending video, whatever you call it, viral video going around showing the makeup procedure they did on this lady. So that brings me to the psychological part of getting older. This would apply to women to men as well as women, but men don't usually try to fix up their faces with makeup. In this lady's case, she must have felt, I don't know. I mean, it must make a big difference. I'm just
We
guessing.
like to wear makeup. I like to wear makeup.
Yeah.
Well, while we like to wear makeup, I think there are a lot of societal pressures that we need to acknowledge that youth and beauty are valued more than wisdom are.
Yeah,
and so
really.
as women, we have a lot of pressure in this regard. And, as I tell women who are in my office, it's those that are most resilient that seem to age best. So it's not necessarily about looking young in the mirror. It's really about being able to adapt and change as we get older. That helps us age the most successfully.
Years ago, I worked at an assisted living facility, and a real quick story I want to tell you and then ask you about something. There was a lady there who had a huge hump on her back. What do they call it?
Dowager.
Dowager something. And she had been a dancer. And she showed me a photograph of herself from 1 year earlier. And she didn't have that hump on her back. And I didn't bring it up. I didn't say anything, but she was just showing me a picture. And then she showed me some pictures of her when she was younger, and she was ballet, whatever she did, okay? And there was a nurse at the facility, and I said, gosh, how does that happen in 1 year's time? And she said something about calcium. So I immediately told Robin, I said, Robin, you got to start taking calcium pills. Is that, I mean, what is the truth behind that? And is that associated with menopause in any way?
Well, what you're talking about is bone loss, and bone health is one of the important issues that we discuss as women become menopausal. So estrogen helps protect against bone loss, and as soon as we go through that menopausal transition, we start to lose bone mass. Now, it also depends on, did you start with normal bone mass from childhood? And some of us, for whatever reason, did not start at a normal bone mass when we start losing. So we all peak our bone density around between the ages of 20 and 30, and it's a slow downhill trek from there, but certainly at menopause we tend to take a dive as women. Now, the Dowager's hump may have appeared to have come on in a year, but my guess is that was probably a much longer standing process in terms of the bone loss. So while calcium will help with bone health, it is not the end-all be-all solution for women, and women should be screened for osteoporosis with a bone density study, particularly if they have risk factors for low bone density, for instance, a mother who broke a hip, etc. But that would be important to check around the menopausal transition if you have risk factors, or by the age of 65 if you don't.
Talk about incontinence. It's a difficult subject for a lot of people. Does that necessarily become something you have to live with after menopause?
Well, incontinence is not normal at any age, so that's important to say. That's not what we're all looking forward to as we go through menopause. But incontinence can occur if women, for instance, have had multiple childbirths. They might have some loosening of those pelvic floor muscles. They might leak a little bit of urine if they cough or sneeze or jump. And there are other forms of urine loss too, so like that stress or the urge incontinence. So if we get some frequency or urgency, you got to go to the bathroom, you got to go right now type of thing. Those are two different kinds. And the second type, the urge incontinence, that can be related to estrogen loss. And in fact, estrogen can actually be somewhat helpful for that. But the cough, sneeze, leak, that's a matter of strengthening those muscles in the pelvic floor. But either way, urine leakage is not normal, and there's something we can do about it. So women need to see their providers for that.
Dementia is very much of a concern as the people get older. You know, I mean, I know people that are in their 80s now, and they're becoming forgetful, and they don't want to have to feel like they're having dementia, and so they get scared because they're so used to doing things independently from others.
Right. Well, dementia is a concern for all of us, but we know that women seem to develop Alzheimer's disease more than men do, even accounting for the age discrepancy, meaning that women live longer than men. We still seem to develop more Alzheimer's disease. The reason for that is unclear, and we're continuing to do a lot of research on that. But for women and men, the best thing that we can do is remain healthy in terms of cardiovascular fitness, exercise regularly, stimulate your mind, take on new projects, etc. But there probably are genetic factors involved for some of us, especially those who develop Alzheimer's disease very young. So it's important to keep in mind that dementia is not a normal part of aging either, and if anyone has concerns, they should also see their providers.
The book has a lot more in it than we were able to cover in this interview. Obviously, that's usually the case, unless it's a really tiny pamphlet, and usually those people are selling something.
Yeah.
But this book is very complete. I have a copy of the book. If you want it, call me. It's called The Menopause Solution. The number to call right now is 622-9622. I'll just pick one caller at random, and that person will get the book. And the rest of us will have to go buy it. Can you give us a website, Doctor?
Well, mayoclinic.org is a good reference for any information about this, but the book is widely available wherever books are sold, Amazon, Target, Walmart, etc.
All right, I don't mean to compare the human body to a car, but I have a question. I'm going to use a car as a way to ask the question. Okay, if I go to the mechanic now, they plug the engine into some kind of a computer, and they diagnose it. Can a person, and a woman in this case, go to a doctor and have her blood, her hormones, or whatever, her vitals kind of all monitored in some way, and then the doctor comes back with a report saying, okay, since menopause, you need vitamin A, you need to walk more, you need to lift weights. I mean, can we do that nowadays? Do we have technology that brings us to that point?
Well, I don't know if you can get a single blood panel and have that tell you everything you need to know about menopause. And certainly we don't even need blood testing to tell a woman she's in menopause. That is, the definition is no period for a year. That defines menopause, so really no blood testing is necessary. But in terms of maintaining health, I think there's a lot of common sense stuff that we need to think about in terms of maintaining a healthy weight and exercising on a regular basis, and you certainly don't need a blood test to tell you that either. But in the book, we outline all of the things that you need to do to keep yourself healthy going forward after this menopausal time frame.
It's amazing.
Doctor, thank you for being on the air with us today. And if you're ever in Florida, definitely stop by. We have so many retirees here.
Yeah, we do, for
people
sure.
People move here from all over the country. And I know this is probably a huge issue in our community. So thank you for coming on to the radio station here to talk about this.
You are welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, thank you. All right, we will take a little break, and we'll be right back. And Fun with Joe is up next. This is The Source, WOCA Ocala.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. Nice Monday with lots of sunshine and a high of 83 at the coast, 89 inland. Through to partly cloudy Monday night with a low of 62 and a few cool inland spots to 69 along the coast. For Tuesday and Wednesday, a mix of clouds and sunshine. The high Tuesday 81 at the coast, 86 inland. Wednesday's high 83 at the coast, up to 89 inland. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox News Radio, I'm Pat O'Neill. North Carolina Governor Pat McCrory is taking the federal government to court. He's filed suit over an order to reverse a state law, forcing transgenders to use bathrooms matching their biological sex.
McCrory tells Fox News Sunday the feds want him to admit the law is discriminatory.
I'm not going to publicly announce that something discriminates.
McCrory says it's unfair the DOJ is only giving 3 days to make a choice. The feds could opt to withhold education funding.
Fox Radio's Evan Brown. Iran claims it's test-fired another ballistic missile. David Keyes of the Israeli Prime Minister's office.
It's high time that the international community wake up and treat these threats of incitement to genocide and the annihilation of Israel seriously.
This will be Iran's third missile test in 2 months. No word yet on who won Saturday's $430 million Powerball. A New Jersey store will get an undisclosed amount for selling the ticket. Fox News, we report, you decide.
Some people steer clear of store brands, but Napa Conventional Motor Oil for $2.19 a quart is more than a store brand. It has the Napa logo on it, a logo that represents quality and knowledge, the same logo on the store and that guy's shirt. So pick up Napa Conventional Motor Oil for $2.19 a quart, only available at, you guessed it, Napa. That's Napa.